Are you ready to make a difference in the lives of fathers and their families? Support the Show Up Dad podcast and empower the next generation of dads to lead with confidence and love. Your donation of $50, $100, and $250 can provide a dad with essential resources. We could also like to introduce you to an incredible partner, Tallman Equipment. Since 1952, Tallman Equipment has been the leading provider of top quality lineman tools. Their reliable and durable equipment ensures safety and efficiency on the job. If you're in need of a trustworthy tool, look no further than Tallman Equipment. And don't forget to visit our online shop at the Show Up Shop for our high quality products that support our cause. From t-shirts and hoodies to stickers and children's clothes, we have something for everyone. By purchasing from our shop, you'll not only show your support for our cause, but you'll help other fathers out there as we provide resources for them to be more plugged in for their families. And today I just want to introduce a very special guest on our show. His name is Jason Novak. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Jason Novak, okay? Jason is a journeyman lineman, 53 years old. He has an impressive background in this field, okay? He's not only a hardworking professional, but also a devoted family man. He's been happily married to his wife, Jen Novak, for over 12 years. And together, they have a beautiful daughter named Bristol, who's around 9 years old now. Jason also has a son named Mason, who is married to Marissa Novak. And they have a lovely granddaughter named Cecilia, who is 3 years old. Apart from this great family and his professional life, Jason is also involved in making a positive impact in the community. In 2021, he started his own nonprofit organization called Climbing for Kids, where 100% of the proceeds go to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. We are honored to have Jason as our special guest on today's episode. So join us as we dive into this inspiring journey and learn from his experience as a dedicated lineman, loving husband and father, and passionate advocate for making a difference in the lives of others. Welcome to our show, brother.
Thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I had recently did a podcast with Paul Moeller, who is a friend of yours, and he had turned me on to you. He's like, I know Jason would be a great fit for your podcast. You need to get him on here. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it, man. I want to talk to another lineman of faith. One of the things that they told me is you can be a lineman and you can be a pastor, but you can't be both. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's definitely hard to find another man of faith in this trade. So welcome to our show, man.
Oh, thank you. And like you said, it is tough out there. It's the culture that we are in, our work environment. It's tough being a Christian out there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not hard being one. It's hard finding other good Christian linemen out there, I should say.
Oh, for sure. And then all the different walks of life that you run into in this industry. I mean, there's some pretty amazing men, especially all being alpha males, right?
Yes.
We all think we're right. We all think our way's best way to do it, right? And that goes to everything, even if our own belief, you know what I mean? Everybody thinks their own way is better. So,
right.
It's hard. Right?
It is. Yes, sir.
Now, Jason, I wanted to ask you, brother, what inspired you to start Climbing for Kids, and why did you choose St. Jude's Research Hospital as a beneficiary?
Sure. So in 2021, decided to go out to Kansas City, and our utility I was working for wasn't sending anyone. So I was just going to go out there on my own. Got a couple buddies that wanted to go too. We are just going to pay our way. But it was my 20th time competing out there. So I wanted to do something just a little bit different. Didn't know what, or how to even approach it. And so just kind of thinking about it, praying about it, and was sitting at church one day, and somebody got up and they were giving their testimony on St. Jude's Children's Hospital and how they had affected their family, how they helped them through their troubling times. Of course, they were still going on with this situation. But I thought, man, it just kind of struck a chord in my heart. And, I didn't know what it was going to lead to or how I was going to do it. But I just asked the guys, I said, hey, got this idea. What do you think about just trying to raise some money for Climbing for Kids? It was kind of a last minute deal. We'll call it Climbing for Kids, go out there and compete as that, and just see what we can do. All the money goes to St. Jude's, and it may just be a one-time thing, but we'll just try it and see how it goes over. And
Mhm.
I called out the international and made sure that I could compete under that because we weren't sponsored by anybody, just ourselves. And they said, yeah, bring it, come how you want. And couldn't really promote it out there at that time because it was the last minute. They have to get board approvals and all that. So we just put it on our shirts and went out there, had a little bit of sponsorship for that, for climbing
Mhm.
for kids. But like I said, we paid for everything ourselves. Uh, Personally, we did really well out there that year as a team, as a throw together team. But more importantly, that first year we raised about $5,500 for St. Jude's, and it just kind of started something big, um, bigger bigger than us. It's getting bigger and bigger, growing momentum, and it's pretty pretty fun to watch to see where it's going. Second year, went out there, got a little more support of Ameren and some other um, uh, companies. We raised 44,000. The international was big in helping with that. They let us get up on stage, do a check presentation, and that's when Paul Kaler and his family. I'd got in touch with him. His daughter was sick, and I knew they had enjoyed the rodeos, and he wasn't going as a competitor that year because his daughter was so sick. But
Mhm.
I just called him up and said, "Hey, if you're interested, if she's interested, um, I got this thing going on. Would you like to be part of it?" And we'll just kind of play it by ear and see how she does and how you guys do. And I know she enjoyed the rodeo, which she liked to come out there. And he asked her, and of course he left everything up to her, all the decisions as far as that goes, because only she knew how she was actually feeling. And I told him, we'll do it last minute, fly by fly. It doesn't matter. Whatever she can handle, that's what we'll do. And man, she was a trooper. Now she got up on stage and presented the check to St. Jude's Children's Hospital to the representative, and man, it
Mhm.
really just it. I've been blessed to be on stage out there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Both individually and as a team. But that was just one moment that will. Sorry, but
No.
one moment that will forever change me. Just
Mhm.
seeing her enthusiasm and her spirit, and that whole family's just the strength through all that.
Yeah.
I knew she was sick, but I had no idea how sick she was at that moment, and she passed away like 5.5, 6 weeks right after that. And just to be able to be part of that moment, just a small part of that moment to give that gift. Of joy to her and that family in that moment was something pretty special to me. It really touched me. And then last year, we got even more involvement from the international. They gave us a booth outside the right out. I mean, phenomenal spot right outside the entrance to the expo. So
Mhm.
everyone had to go past us going in and out. We had three raffle tables set up outside of the event where it was 100% donated items from vendors inside and just vendors in our community. Hotels donated rooms. I mean, anything you can imagine.
Yeah.
It was great. I can't believe the amount of items that were donated. Um, I did a silent auction on two of my Lyman prints with a personalized poem on there that a company had bought, and we ended up raising over $110,000 last year for
Wow.
climbing for kids, and got a lot of interest from that, a lot of great exposure. So
Mhm.
I mean, we're just excited about what the future holds and what God's going to do for it. Climbing for kids in St. Jude's.
Man, what a tremendous story, man. Just just to see your heart in this, and just to see how you being obedient to what God led you to do, and just to see how it's evolved,
Yes.
you know? I mean, that's a God story, brother, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And and I'm a man of faith.
Mhm.
I'm not always obedient. I fall short a lot, and it's hard
Yeah.
to listen to those when you get them because I mean your flesh will tell you go the other way or do what's easy, and it's even like this, it's hard for me to
Mhm.
put myself out there like that,
Yeah.
but I'm as I get my strength elsewhere, I
Mhm.
should say, then it makes it easier. I can't do it on my own. That's for sure. I mean, there's a whole team of people behind this that have helped
Yeah.
and have been amazing. My wife, for one, she supports it fully, and I can't do it without her. And
Yeah.
she's behind it 100%.
Man, it's good to see that everybody's all on board and it's just like you guys are all gelling, right?
Yeah.
All together as a crew,
Yep.
it's when stuff comes together like that, it's like working on a really good crew where you know what the other person's doing already and they got their assigned task and you don't have to say anything or anything like that. Everybody has their parts to play, right? They all fall in place, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sure makes life a lot easier. Makes things smooth.
Yeah, for sure. Can you tell us? I know linemen were notorious for having stories, right? We always have a story. Whether it be I, bored a hole through the crest or whatever. You know what I mean? It's we all have our stories, right?
Sure.
Can you share some specific stories or moments during your 30 years in the line industry that made you realize the importance of your work and the impact it has on your community?
Sure. Probably one of the moments what I wasn't even part of. So
Hmm.
it was right around COVID, start of COVID 2020 there.
Hmm.
I actually was down my basement doing a little pre workout stuff, doing some squats, just air squats, no weights or anything. And I ended up blowing my back out
Oh wow.
and became paralyzed for 3 days. Um, I mean, I couldn't walk. My wife had to end up taking me to the hospital in a wheelchair. Had surgery through that. You know, I'm completely healed, recovered. 2 hours after surgery, I walked out of the hospital.
Mhm.
But it was bad. I mean, I was, like I said, I was laying on the floor. She couldn't pick me up, couldn't move me. I couldn't stand.
Wow.
But through that process, I was home and our power went out. And obviously, I wasn't working. There was nothing I could do. And I'm sitting there and I'm about to go nuts. Just like, what's going on? I can't. It was like only like 5 or 6 hours. It wasn't
Yeah.
that big a deal, but it was just in those moments. Finally, I just sat there and I realized that, man, this is what people feel like because usually power's out and I'm gone. I'm not there. I'm not working, but it's like, man, now I want my power to be on, not just for me, but for my family that's there.
Yeah.
My wife and my daughter, when normally I'm out getting it on for the other people's family. And it just really impacted me in that moment that I finally realized that, man, we do make a huge difference in people's lives just in those moments, when they're out several days in a row to a week, it's a big deal. And
Mhm.
I kind of understand why they get aggravated. I mean, I was getting antsy at 5 or 6 hours into it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I didn't really notice the impact either until I started going on storms.
Hmm.
And when you're in that moment, I'm sure you've been on storms and everything
Oh,
like that, and you're going and everything's devastated. Everything looks like spaghetti all over the place, and trees are down and everything. And you go and you start one pole at a time, right? You
mhm.
start picking up people, start picking up grids, as you go along. And when you go do that victory lap, man, and just to see the people come out and just clapping, and man, I've had people offer us money. I've had people
Yeah,
offer us booze, sex,
yeah,
literally, you know what I mean?
right,
Just to get their house on. And it's like, man, that's not the way it works.
right,
We got to pick up, we're not just picking up one house, we're picking up thousands of houses at a
yeah,
time,
oh, yeah,
or hundreds of houses, whatever it may be. And it's pretty cool to see how much of an impact we make, and it's also crazy to see the level that people will go for the comfort that we provide because
sure,
we're providing a comfort, we're providing a need, right? And
absolutely,
it's crazy to see, man. it's always interesting to see, like, if we ever have anything that happens to our grid, right? Lord
Hmm.
forbid, whatever, but we are living in these perilous times, right?
Sure,
We know that.
absolutely.
How people are going to respond, it's crazy to see that,
Oh, yeah, just like right now, this wouldn't be happening.
hmm
Unless you have some type of battery backup, you're done. Everything is relied on technology and electricity these days,
hmm
and it's just getting more and more of it.
That's why it's so important, the work that we're doing, the work that you're doing, just share that love and hope, is because we understand that once we can change the heart of people, once we can get a hold of the Father and change his heart, and then he starts raising his children and changing their hearts, I believe it's going to be a ripple effect where people are going to start treating each other better. I mean, yeah, you're always going to have the ones that are just bad eggs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever. That's just the way it is. But man, if we can get more and more people involved of just raising good human beings, man, productive members of society, I think that's the biggest contribute as fathers we can give the world,
Right.
you know?
There's so many terrible influences on our
Mm-hmm.
families, on our children these days, and I mean, they have access to everything that you and I didn't have growing up too. It was out there in different
Yeah.
forms, but just the ease of access to everything. And the devil works in there on all of it too. He knows
Yeah.
he knows how to infiltrate. He knows how to attack.
That's crazy because you're absolutely right. Because I mean, man, I was having a conversation with my wife the other day, and I was like, nothing's new under the sun. I mean, this has been going on for a long, long time, right? The only difference now is, like you're saying, is the access, right? It's more prevalent nowadays because it's easier accessible. There's always been a level of pornography out there. There's always been sexual immorality. There's always been murder, all these different things, right, throughout the world, and we can rest assured we know that it's going to be the same thing just like in the times of Noah, right?
Yeah.
When Noah's days, when God flooded the earth, whether you believe in the creation or anything like that, um, there's been proven facts that there was a great flood. So
Yeah.
you can't even deny that.
Mm-hmm.
But needless to say, when the earth was flooded, it says like it would be in the days of Noah, the times that we're going into now, right? And so if Noah's days were anything like our days with the transgender movement, all the confusion that's going on,
Right.
man, we're right there. We're knocking at the door, brother, and we definitely need to have our ducks in a row. you know?
Absolutely. Yes. Well, tomorrow is not guaranteed anyhow. So you need your ducks in a row
Mm-hmm.
anyhow, whether today's the final day for this planet or not. It could be the final day for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We never know, man. When your time's ready to go, it's ready to go. One of the last conversations I had with my brother, he told me, he's like, man, all I got is 20 more years of line work and I'm going to retire.
Hmm.
And he didn't have 20 more years, you know. He passed away the day before his 39th birthday.
Oh man.
Yeah, and had a heart attack, a widowmaker. No one ever saw it coming. The guy was pretty darn healthy. You know what I mean? He hunted, he ran, he did all this stuff, and he's gone here today, gone tomorrow, right?
Right.
Now, Jason. Now you talked about what inspired you to choose St. Jude and all this different stuff, right? How has your faith played a role in your personal professional life? You talked about being a believer.
Hmm.
Um, how has it played a role, especially during like challenging times that you've had to face?
Um, Personally, professionally, personally, wow, I've had some. I mean, we all have stories, like you said. We're linemen. We all have stories, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
golly, I've had some pretty amazing. I've been told I wasn't ever going to do line work again several times in my
Mm-hmm.
life. I had some pretty just miracles happen for healings that I mean, I've got documented proof of pure healings that,
Wow.
yeah. So in 20, it'd have been 2011, March of 2011. Go way back. All right. So I'm not even supposed to be here. So my parents were Catholic, but they were done
Mhm.
having children. Um, they were using two types of birth control. And here I am, you know.
Yeah.
So God had a plan. He had a plan for me to be here. He overcame. Here I am.
Mhm.
Later on in life, I've had multiple injuries, lots of them. 17 broken bones. I've had spinal fusion, broke my back. 20. I've been blind 5 times, 3 times completely in my right eye, twice in my left eye, and it's a retinal rupture from stress and from I just used to internalize all my stress.
Yeah.
And when that would happen within an 8-hour period, I go from 20/20 vision to complete blindness in that eye.
Wow.
And with that, they do it's a cold laser surgery. They inject you full of, inject your vein full of a fluid, and then they
Mhm.
use a cold laser to basically cauterize that rupture on your retina to hope they weigh the difference between the blood being on there and
Uh-huh.
the actual rupture to see which is going to be worse. And they hope to get you back to a 20/60 vision with corrective lenses.
Yeah.
And each time I've come back to 20/20 in this eye and 20/15 in this eye. These are just readers. Um,
Yeah.
I have to have them. I can't see my phone anymore without them. But as
Yeah,
far
like
as distance, you're right. My arms, I grew my arms. But as far as distance, I've come back to 20/20 and 20/15 in each eye. And kind of a little quirk, my side note, but my vision doctor, the retina specialist, was called Dr. His name's Dr. Blinder,
Mhm.
but kind of interesting little
Yeah.
name there. But he did an amazing job. Um, anyhow, so then in 2011, um, real miracle, I was doing a little demo for Hurt Man Rescue, just going up 12 feet to hang the dummy, free climbing back in, poles chewed up. It was wet and rainy. And I slipped. Instead of eating a bunch of splinters, I was just kind of hanging there sideways. I thought, I'll just take a big step down to the ground, eat some crow, get back up there. Because I had about 30 apprentices there. I eat a little
Yeah.
crow, get back up there, rehang it, And I was kind of hanging there. I was like, oh, here we go. Drop down, hit the ground, and pop. Well, my bones in my left leg, both my fibula and tibia and fibula, both come through my boot.
Oh my
Actually,
God.
yeah, they broke and came out through my leather climbing boot. And I was just still standing there, and they're like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Oh no, I broke my leg," and I could see my toes pointing up in the air. And
Oh.
yeah, it was a bad deal. Went in, laying on the operating table. Doctor comes in there, starts talking to me. He's like, "Hey, we have options here. This is a bad deal." I'm like, "Yeah, I went through, bone came through my boot." And he's like, "Well, there's the main problem." He says, "A dirty old boot, infections most likely set in. Got two options when you start taking muscles from other parts of your body, or the other option." I'm like, "Doctor, you do what you think's best, but don't take muscles from other parts of my body." Because they explain in a process too that most likely once that infection's there, then it's there. Uh,
Yeah.
Ended up going through that. Um, Even the final surgery that I had, where they rebuilt everything, I had almost an inch of cadaver bone put in, 2 plates, 13 screws, and he said, "You'll never climb a pole again. I know you do that speed climbing and that kind of stuff. Just get that out of your head." Said, "If you go to work at any type of capacity at all, it'll be an office job, and it'll be a year and a half minimum." And
Wow.
that's if I didn't lose my leg. And ended up being able to keep my leg, and I was back to work in 6 months, full release, as long as I didn't climb per se. He wasn't going to give me a restriction because I couldn't go back to work with that
Mhm.
restriction, but I just had to promise him not to climb. 2 weeks later, went out to Kansas City and competed at the rodeo. Um, it ended up we got through placed in 3 events and got second place overall. And I hadn't even been on a pole since that fall. But yeah, I had a great day. But the thing was, I didn't know reason he had me promise not to climb because none of that bone had healed. It
Oh,
wasn't
man.
healing. I've got pictures from then, and then a couple months later where it was completely healed. But it had not in September. This was I think September 24th, 23rd. Got X-rays and none of that cadaver bone or anything had healed. Actually, it looks like there's a where they'd stuck a chunk of the cadaver bone in. It was sticking out the side of looked like another spur coming out the side of my leg.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
yeah, but then it was completely healed just within a couple months after that. Just looks like a brand new leg. You can see the metal and everything in there. It's 100% amazing. But I mean, the only I walked in the doctor's office and he's like, "Wow, you know what happened?" And I'm like, "Yes, I know what happened." And he was a believer too. And he's like, "He said this wasn't me. This was not me. This is God."
Mhm.
And 100%.
Man, that's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy because I've heard so many testimonies of God stories like that of healing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that's actually an amazing story, bro. I can't believe you're out there climbing again.
Well, that's he
Yeah.
told me I want it, but you gotta know yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you gotta believe. I mean, it's belief. You have to believe you can do it. I
Yeah.
had my spine fused when I was 29 in
Mm-hmm.
1999, and they told me to find a new career then because back then I didn't know anybody went through back surgery back then that healed up at all, or could
Yeah.
do anything. I mean, now it's man, you go in and a few months later you're back to 100%. It's a little bit incision. I had 62 staples whenever
Wow.
they did that. Yeah. I mean, I'm open up from one end to the other. I go to the water park and people are like, "Oh my gosh."
Frankenstein.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, that's crazy how technology has changed so much. You're absolutely right. I had a friend who used to play semi-pro soccer. He's in the military with me,
Mhm.
and he had to get his knee scoped, right. And this guy is just a war horse. I'm straight up. He was on Dev Group. He led over 190 combat missions as point man on SEAL Team 3. Just a phenomenal dude, man. Good friend. And he had his knee scoped and everything, man. And it was that horrible old school surgery, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays, man, they just give you a little incision, like you're saying, and it's done. I mean, they can fix your knee like nothing no more.
Oh yeah. Well, knee replacements. They do knee replacements, and people are up walking in no time. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, even eye surgery. Remember when they used to just cut your eye and like flip your lid back and
Right.
do all this crazy stuff? Now it's just like a couple little burns, pss, pss, and they're done. You're ready to roll. You know.
Yeah. Technology is changing our trade too, in a great way.
Mm-hmm. I see. I see a lot of good, positive things. With that. Um, I do see though that what used to separate us from other entities, because we're union, right?
Yeah.
Um, we used to be us doing hot work, right? And that was our bread and butter. We can do hot work. I'm starting to see now more and more companies, whether it be insurance or whatever it may be, are falling back to doing everything dead, just isolating and doing it dead. Our bread and butter was hot work. That's what we did. Hot reconductors, everything. And that's always a big question in my mind, going back to the trade is, man, what really separates us from the non-union, you
Right.
know, because we're killing it out anyways, you
Hmm.
know? So that's just what I see over here in Southern California. Um, I'm sure it's different other places. So, but it's interesting to see how everything's turning, the new advancements in technology to make our jobs easier. Like you, I used to use the bones, the MD6, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's what we use, the Y35, and now they have tools for everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And it helps out because your body, like my body hurts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm only 45 years old, but I mean, it takes a toll after a while, reaching again or at the end of your tools with the bones to clack on some squeeze-ons or whatever, you know what I mean? So
Oh, yeah.
it takes a toll, man. But so we talked about your faith and your personal, professional life, right? During challenging times. I'm sure for you, Jason, you've seen it where you've been on the right way. People have seen you, you've been a pillar, whatever, you know what I mean? There, they know that they can come to you. Have you been able to help people during those certain times with your faith and share your faith during those times?
There's been a few.
Mm-hmm.
I've been blessed to work with a couple really good Christian men
Mm-hmm.
who kind of, I don't know if it was more of a mentorship, but just being there, being
Mm-hmm.
able to talk to them, whenever I had some troubles. And yeah, I've had a few people approach me on different occasions, just, hey man, I'm struggling right now with this, I'm struggling with that. And it's not that you have to put yourself out there overwhelmingly as a Christian, but do it in your walk and be the light, and
Yeah.
people see that. And just, hey man, you don't hardly ever cuss, do you? And yeah, no, I try not to, because I don't want to bring that home. Not
Yeah.
that I don't want to do it anyhow, but I don't want to be bringing that home to my family. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's one thing I'm very well aware of. And but people see just that little bit, and then they start looking at other aspects of it. And like I said, I'm far from perfect, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't claim to be. And I fall every day, and thank God, there's grace out there. And I try to show it. Yeah, but too, it's tough at times because we have a job to do to what to get on apprentices, but you don't have to beat them down like a dog either. You can do it in a godly man type way, because they're a man too.
Yeah.
And but there's some people that really are cruel out there, and it doesn't have to be that way.
No, and I see that too. One of our past guests, Gene Glaudman, said that he went to a really hard money crew. These guys are 60 crew out here. They have the 60 crew. They're like line gods out here, right? They do all the big 69 kV underbuild, all that stuff out here, and Smith corners with like 60 arms on them and all this stuff, right? And it's the hard money crew. That's the crews that make a lot of money. But he got sent over there, and one of the guys who is pretty famous out here tells him, you know what? If you work like a man, we're going to treat you like a man. Plain and simple. We're not here to babysit. This is a man's trade. And I like that. You know what I mean? Because it's true. If you show up and you're ready to work, you're not making any excuses. You're there to learn. And, if you make a mistake, own it.
Right.
And if you don't know something, say you don't know.
Right.
And I think that's what's part of being a man. And I think that's what we need to show our kids as well. You know what I mean? Even for my children, I have to get on them with my two sons because they don't like to take ownership a lot of times.
Right.
So I have to show them ownership, like when I make mistakes. Because at first I used to get on them, you know what I mean? And like every father, you know what I mean? What do you mean you didn't do that? I just watched you, blah, 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 right? But it's like, okay, but where are they learning that behavior? And it wasn't until I started learning that, man, my kids are a reflection of me. And
Yep.
I control the atmosphere, like you said, bringing stuff home, right?
Right.
I started seeing and developing and learning that, man, they have to watch it first in me. I have to be someone that I have to be someone that they can emulate, right? So
Yep.
then I started taking ownership. I started saying, man, when I made mistakes, like if I made a mistake with my daughter or whatever, you know what I mean, and I accused her of something, you know what I mean, I had to be big enough to be like, hey, man, not say I'm sorry, but say forgive me.
Right.
Right? Forgive me, I made a mistake. I take full responsibility, and I had to show them. And it took a while for them. But it started really making a big change in my fathering and even in my husbandry, being able to go to my wife, because our children watch us, right? How we respond to our wife, and, our dynamic between each other, right?
Right.
So it's really interesting to see how that all ties in with work and, apprentices and children, and having the patience with apprentices. I mean, think about it. There's guys that go out there to work, they're a hell of a lineman, but then they're failing at home.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, dude, you're so good at work. Take that home, take that level that you have at work, that the commandeering presence that you have at work, these great ideas that you have, all this that you have, right? Bring that home. Your family needs that too, more so than your job. You're already practicing at work. Do it at home too, because who you are at home is who you really truly are.
Yeah. Well, you should be the same everywhere.
Yeah.
And most people are. They're somebody at work, or somebody around their buddies, there's someone else at home, and it's a tough balance to leave work at work and not bring it home. But in the same sense, you have to bring some of it home, to just because that's part of your life. That's a big part of your life. You're there a lot, probably. I mean, I'm there more than I am with my family. We work a ton of overtime here, and and thank God my wife's gracious and she runs a household. She works too, so I mean, it's not like she's just taking care of the home. She's taking care of our daughter, picking up all the slack, and you know, thank God I've got her, because I don't know what I'd do without her. But you have to bring some of that work home to keep her informed of what's going on, just so she knows. I mean, she's involved with the rodeo and with every aspect of my life. And I mean, she knows a lot about line work just from watching the rodeo stuff and hearing about it and everything else. I can come home and give her a quick description on something, and she's got a visual of it in her head and probably can figure it out quicker than, she can't do it physically, but she could probably figure it out better than a lot of apprentices could, just not short, just hearing, scenarios over the years. But yeah, just be the same person, and I find that there's a lot of guys at work. It's like, man, no wonder they do things at work too. And I'm like, no wonder you're sitting there griping about your wife all the time if you're acting like this at home. Don't do that. Trying to think of how it puts you in a hard place too. To step up and tell them that sometimes, but sometimes they have to be told that because they're not only committing or creating a workspace problem, but they're bringing their problems in from home then too. I mean, you won't hear me say anything bad about my wife because I've got nothing bad to say about her. And if I do, we're going to discuss it. If we've got an issue, she sets me down all the time and says, hey, we need to talk about this. And I'm like, okay, first I'm like, oh, here we go. But I know as soon as we start getting into that discussion, she's right. And it leads to then me opening up because I don't have a lot of words throughout the day. I'm more of a quiet type of guy. And so she'll start the conversation and she'll be like, okay, what do you have? And I'll sit there for a little bit, collect my thoughts, and then I'll open up to her. And we have to have those discussions, and it helps.
Yeah, you definitely got to have someone you can come to. Even the guy, I mean, obviously you got to trust somebody, right? You trust your wife, and that's why you're able to come to her with all that stuff. What I tell guys I deal with, have someone that you can trust and talk to, someone who's not biased, right? Someone who's gonna tell you the truth in love because they want the best for you, and they're not going to side with you when you're wrong, right? Because a lot of times, you know, you go to your drinking buddies or your buddies at work or whatever, and you're dealing with a personal issue that's really eating you up. You go to them, and what's the first thing they say? Well, F her, or, you know, leave her, or get another one, or cheat, or, you know what I mean? All this different stuff. That's not who you should go to,
No.
right? You should actually be able to go to someone that you can trust and be able to use wisdom is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Have wisdom. Yeah,
Seek wise counsel.
exactly. Now, with that being said, Jason, how do you balance work and life? Because that's the big question on this podcast. Everybody's always asking me. And I got my own theory on it and like what I do. But what do you do to balance your busy life and work and all that stuff?
Man, I don't, honestly. I am terrible. The phone rings and usually I'm taking it. You know, it's I take a high percentage of my calls and the phone rings a lot. And I am probably the world's worst to ask that question. I'm learning and I'm trying. So we've been married 12 years. We've not only do I work 1,500 to 2,000 hours overtime a year, I have actual hours of overtime, but also we've flipped 15 houses in those 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So between trying to balance home and flipping homes, we were both divorced, and we started out with nothing, and we've made great gains. We've been blessed financially through hard work, and just, you know, God's given us some opportunities, and we took advantage of those. And through her job, my job, and then working hard on the extracurricular there on the homes. But now we finally, everybody kids us, you know, hey, how long are you going to stay in this house? But I truly have found a home. It's got a great pool in the backyard. We're planning on this summer spend a lot of family time around that pool, kind of slowing down on the overtime a little bit. And hopefully I can find that balance and maintain, because it's been a struggle. My daughter's 9 and she's getting busy, and I don't want to miss all those things she's going to be into, you know, and I want to see who she's hanging around with and the influences on her life. I want my wife and I to be the influences on her friends instead of the world being the influence on her and her friends.
Man, and they will too. That's the crazy part. When a father's gone, you know, like I was, like you are, you know, we're the loudest influence in our kids, okay? No one else can influence our children like a father can, right? That's how much power God has given us as fathers. Right. At the same token, wives have influence over their husbands. And we take that back to Garden of Eden. You know what I mean? The serpent and the snake, right? Eve was able to influence her husband to eat, even though he knew it was wrong. Right. And that just goes to show you the power of a wife over her husband, right? But going back to the power that a father has over his children, we need to be there. You know, I was reading this one book one time, and it said the power of influence, right? And how to be a good leader and stuff like that. And it talked about time is influence, right? And we need to be there for them. Now, I understand we have a job that we have to do, right? And it's taxing. It's you know, it determines a lot of our time, right? It takes a lot of our time. But one of the things I've come up with, because we don't at our foundation, we never recommend, you know, quitting your job or anything like that. We recommend reassessing your dream, because if your dream becomes your spouse's nightmare, you have to reassess that dream, right? Something's off. You guys are not walking equally yoked. Something's wrong. You need to get together and communicate, right? So we don't recommend quitting line work or anything like that, because it's an amazing job, right? And God called you to that. It's a calling, because not everybody can be linemen.
Right.
But with that being said, one of the key ingredients that I always tell guys is to be where your feet are. If you got to take that call and you got to go to work, for heaven's sakes, leave your problems at home. Be there 100% clipped in where your feet are at work. The same thing on the flip side of that coin. If you're at home, be at home. Be plugged in with your family. You know, it's not about quantity of time, it's about quality of time. Right? It could be something as simple as playing with your kids' Legos for 5 minutes. I mean, you probably changed the whole kid's world doing that. You know, and that's the thing I like to stress and harp, because I don't believe that you can ever have a work-life balance.
No.
You know, you can't serve two masters. Something is going to give. You know what I mean? You're going to be good at one and not good at the other, right?
Right.
So just wherever you're at, be where your feet are and give it 100%. Just like even at work, you know what I mean? Craftsmanship. We had another guy, Matt. He's a lineman, Southern California Edison. He talked about craftsmanship, not only at work, but taking that craftsmanship back to the home, you know, and showing up for your family. The same pride that same level of excellence that we're taught as linemen, be that for your family. They need you.
Right. Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Take pride in all things you do. Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, I'm learning, and hopefully this time next year I can have a better answer for you, because I believe I'm on the right path. It's been a work in progress, but our whole goal is to get my wife home, and we're almost there, you know, to that point. In fact, you know, I've told her, whenever you made that decision in your career, you know, whenever you are fulfilled in that, and she is, and she's made that decision. I'm not going to say when that date is. That's between her and I at this point. But yeah, so we're that close to being to where our goals are achieved, and we can start spending that family time. Before, it was only, you know, I'd block out vacations. We just got back from Mexico, you know, and that was always our little downtime. And as soon as we get back, man, it was hammering out the work again. But now we'll be able to have those weekends and that time. So it'd be nice.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's good that you have a plan. A lot of guys I see, they just say, next year, or we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. They never have a plan, right? And tomorrow turns into 5 years from now, you know, and that causes a lot of burnout as well. You know,
it goes by so fast.
It does. Before you know it, man, my daughter, she's graduating this year. I can't believe that. You know, it seems like I was just working out of state and having to come home on the weekends, and if I could, and trying to teach her how to ride a bike.
Right.
You know, and it's crazy. It goes by way, way too fast, like you said, brother, for sure.
Well, there's days I feel like I just got an apprenticeship, and it's 30 years ago, and it's like, where did 30 years of line work go? You know, but
Heck yeah. Now, you talked about the Lineman's Rodeo. I was there recently this past year. We had a booth out there and stuff. It was just a fantastic event put on. The whole group of people out there, Sam Sosa and all them, are just amazing people. What motivates you to just continuously do that? I mean, I know it's shaping you as an individual, but like I you know, other than the fact that you got this group that you have now, and you're raising money, what else motivates you? Like, what's in it for you to challenge yourself that way?
So one of mine was just learning how to better my skills. That's how it all started. You know, getting an apprenticeship, and when I got in, the first person I ever seen climb a pole was a guy next to me at climbing school. I didn't know anything about line work, didn't have a clue. So then I got interested in lineman rodeos to figure out how to better myself. And then it's kind of evolved with going from free climbing to the fall restraints. You know, I thought, I'm going to have to figure this thing out. The best way to do it is just to be quicker and more proficient at it and fight this thing and get it figured out. Well, I've got a lot of friends that I've met along the way, and the only time I see them is out there at Kansas City. But it keeps me in shape. It helps me to do my job better on a daily basis, and
Hmm.
it's going to help me through my career. And as long as I can still do that, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And you look like you're in tremendous shape. You know what I mean? So it
No,
does, man. There's no shape like climbing shape, for
no,
sure.
no, and there's nothing you can do to develop that skill other than just climb a pole. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's running stairs or, I have a Versa climber that simulates climbing a pole, but it's simulating it. It's not climbing a pole. It's a whole
Mm.
different deal.
It is, man. My wife never understands. It's like it's different. It's just even the apprentices we get when we have them going through climbing school,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Oh, I can't understand it. I ran every day, or I was doing the stairmaster," and it's like, man, it's just muscles that you've never used before, brother.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll wear you down fast.
Now, what advice would you give someone who's considering a career in this line industry, um, or any other physical demanding field? What kind of advice can you give them?
Learn as much as you can up front. Like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know anything when I got in. I just basically was told, linemen, they climb poles, they work around electricity. I was like, why would I want to do that? And they're like, well, the money's great. You get that journeyman card, you can go anywhere you want. And, it's going to be a career that's there forever. I'm like, well, I'll give it a try. Check it out. Well, fell in love with it. God
Mm-hmm.
placed me there, and I don't know what else I would do. But if you're thinking about it, there's kind of a stigma against the line schools. If you get on some of the forums and stuff, people are talking, how to get into the trade, and they're like, well, go to the union hall and sign up at the union, do this, heck with them line schools and stuff. But if you don't have any other way to get in, go to the line school, see if you like it, try it. It helps. The only way I got in was because I'd worked since I was 11 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to put myself through college, doing electrical theory. Those were the two things that helped me get in. I was last on the list to get in.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd have gone, they didn't have line schools back then, but if I'd have gone to one, I'm sure that would have helped too. But talk to people if you're thinking about it, and so and so knows so and so. Go talk to them. See what the kind of information they can give. Find out as much as you can about it. Practice. Find somebody
Yeah.
to get out on a pole and try it out.
Hmm. No, that's good advice, man, because there's a lot of people that are coming in our industry. They're saying now that so many people are retiring
Yeah,
that we can't even backfill the void that it's going to create,
right.
and we can't produce enough linemen,
Yeah,
you know.
especially quality ones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Gone is the days where you had. I remember when I was in the field and in my tools. Man, the foremen were guys who were 20 some years in the trade.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And you're asking their advice and stuff like that. Now foremen are 24 years old, just
right.
topped out within 1 year. They're a foreman.
Yeah,
It's crazy to see that.
I expected to know.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I tell these apprentices. When you top out, you're a journeyman lineman. You should know this, right? And it's crazy. It's crazy. One of the things I always say is that there's nothing smarter than a 7-step apprentice, nothing dumber than a first-year lineman.
Right. Well, I had this conversation with a coworker about a week
Mm-hmm.
ago, and just talking about the apprentices and some of the apprentices we've had in the past. I've never been a yeller and a screamer. I'm more of the type of guy that, let's go, we're going to do this. I'm going to be up there with you 100%.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to work all day. We're going to be up on the pole doing this. We're going to come down. We're going to go down the next one. Don't back talk. Don't, if you got a question, ask it, but let's just go. We're going to get after it. And I think about some of the guys that ended up taking themselves out,
Mm-hmm.
of the apprenticeship, and thought, man, they probably wouldn't have been too bad of a lineman, if they'd have just hung with it compared to some of the guys that are coming up through today, that make it through. Just, not just because some of the tools and availability that they have that, back in the day, we cloned everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't very long ago either. It was 12 years ago, and we were three in a line truck. We didn't have a bucket truck, and if we had a bucket truck, it was between a couple crews. And if you went up to hang a transformer or anything, you hung it with a line truck and two guys on a pole. And a lot of, well, we still have a lot of backyard stuff. So, but
Yeah.
I mean, we've got equipment to get back there most of the time. To set poles, shoot, we had there for a long time. We had just a hook on a jib of a easement machine, and we'd have to put weights on the pole to set a 40-foot pole because it was only supposed to set a 30-foot. We had to hand dig the holes, and I mean, that wasn't too long ago. We did that and then work everything else out of our tools.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got easement machines that go in there and set anchors, and the whole 9 yards of the old bust anchors.
Yeah. I remember using the riggers of the truck to bust them suckers, flatten them out. You find different interesting ways how to open stuff up, man.
Oh yeah.
No, but I wanted to ask you one last question, Jason, before we get off here. Looking back on your journey, what is one message or lesson you'd like to leave with our listeners, especially those who may be facing, their own obstacles and seeking hope in challenging times, brother?
We kind of touched on a little bit before, but tomorrow's not guaranteed. So make sure your faith is strong, and no matter what you're doing, and always be your brother's keeper, watch his back, be there for him, not only in the work, but if he needs, like you had said, if he needs an ear to bend, try to give him wise counsel and godly counsel instead of just what the flesh wants to tell him, because you're only hearing one side of the story too.
Yeah.
And there's always another side. And, usually somebody's not coming to you because they've been completely innocent in something, so just walk like there is no tomorrow, I guess.
I like that, man. Walk like there is no tomorrow. I like that. Well, Jason, thanks again for coming on our show, bro, and coming on our podcast and just sharing what you do to be successful. I wish you, the best of luck in all your endeavors.
You too.
I'll be seeing you at the Lineman's Rodeo next year. We're gonna have another booth.
Awesome.
And we'll stop by. And can you go ahead and share with our audience how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah. So if you're interested at all, we are open to ideas on how to raise money for Climate for Kids, whether it's having your own utility, get involved and do some type of sponsorship through that. Like I said, 100% of the proceeds go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. We don't touch anything. We don't draw any money out of it. It all goes through them. We set up a QR code so your donations can go directly to them, get tax deductions from that, the whole 9 yards. Ameren has been a help. Ameren, Illinois has been a help to us. So you can either go through Lineman for Kids, CLIMBINFOR Kids, KIDS, at Ameren.com, or we just started Lineman for the number 4 kids at gmail.com. So those are the two ways. And then we're, like I said, we're open to ideas, and whether it's just somebody that at the utility that you might want to put us in touch with that might listen to our calls, anything like that, that's great. And I like your sponsor of Tallman, man. Charlie is a great dude. Doug Kirk, he's our rep down here in the Southern Illinois. Great guy, but that company is phenomenal. Tallman Equipment is a phenomenal company.
Yeah, absolutely, man. They've been so gracious to us. Can't speak more highly about them guys. I got to meet them in person this last rodeo.
Oh
man, it was just such an awesome time, man. Those guys are great, man. you know. But well, once again, thank you, brother. We appreciate you for coming on our show and just sharing everything that you're doing and how to be successful, man. God bless you, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on here. God bless you too.